Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to Parenting for Paradise. And again, we're going to look at a verse in the Quran and work from this verse and look at how our parenting can be an act of worship this Ramadan, inshallah. I'm Catherine Jones, the Peaceful Parenting Coach, and looking forward again to sharing with you how we can parent for paradise, inshallah. So here's the verse that we're working from today. It is chapter 2, verses 155 to 157. It says, "And certainly we shall test you with something of fear, hunger, loss of wealth, lives and fruits. But give glad tidings to the patient ones, who when afflicted with calamity say, Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi rajiun. Verily to Allah we belong, and verily to Him we shall return." And it continues over here. "They are those on whom are the salawat, who are blessed and will be forgiven from their Lord. And they are those who receive His mercy, and it is they who are the guided ones." So chapter 2, verses 155 to 157. So we're going to go through that verse and look at it from a parenting perspective again today. Okay, so let's start with the first part of the verse. Here we go. "And certainly we shall test you with something of fear, hunger, loss of wealth, lives, and fruits." How does this relate to parenting? Well, inshallah, let's begin with being tested with something of fear. One of the things that parents struggle a lot with is being fearful about their children, fearful about how they're going to turn out, what they're getting up to. And fear, unfortunately, is not a really good emotion to work from. If we're working from a state of fear, often fear leads us to want to control. We want to control everything so that we don't feel fearful. And so when our children are testing us, so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is testing us through our children, and we become fearful as a result, we worry about, what the family might think, what our spouse might think, what the ummah might think. We worry about, are our children doing something that's going to reflect badly upon us? Are they doing something that is going to, obviously reflect badly on us in terms of our relationship with Allah? Is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala going to judge us because of the way our children are? So the first thing to remember is, look at the example of Prophet Nuh alayhi salam. Now we know the prophets and messengers are the best of Allah's creation. And if they're the best of Allah's creation and they have a child who goes in the other direction to what their father, who's a prophet, is calling them to, then surely we who are just normal individuals, we can't be guaranteed that all of our children are going to be on the straight path. Of course, we make dua for that, and we do everything within our power to bring them up the best way possible so that they may be good Muslims. But if we're going around stressing out and worrying about how that looks on us if they're not, then we're actually working from a place of fear. And when we're thinking in terms of fear, we don't parent very well at all. So when we act out of fear, we actually put pressure on our children. We really put pressure on our children in a way that probably pushes them further away, rather than being kind and patient with them, which is the way in order to draw them back, inshallah. Okay, so we're talking about kids testing us and us, being tested in something of fear and fearing what our children are up to, how our children are going to turn out, how that reflects on us, and how acting in a state of fear actually ends up making us put pressure upon our children instead of being able to be kind and patient towards them, which is more likely to draw them back to the correct way. So then we may be tested in hunger, loss of wealth. And so when we get preoccupied with whether we're going to have enough food on the table, whether we're going to have enough wealth for our children's education, or all the things that we worry about, we start working long hours. We start focusing on the dunya and forgetting about the fact that every child comes with their rizq, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the provider. And we put more importance upon gaining wealth than we do on our children. And our children end up being forsaken and perhaps, amused and kept quiet with digital devices while we spend our time making money, buying food, all those sorts of things. So this can be another test, and certainly we shall test you with something of fear, hunger, loss of wealth. And then we've got lives and fruits. So when we are at loss of anything, we feel bad. So if somebody, if we have lost someone close to us, maybe through death, maybe through separation of some kind, then we will feel sad, we will feel unhappy, grief, lots of other feelings. When we are feeling stressed like that, unfortunately, our kids often wear the brunt of our stresses. We, in fact, take it out on our children, and that's not fair. We're not able to be patient with them, and we stop being the good parents that we are meant to be. SubhanAllah. So, looking at this verse, which is from chapter 2, verse 155 to 157, and certainly we shall test you with something of fear, hunger, loss of wealth, lives and fruits. I'm looking at that in terms of how this affects us in terms of parenting our children, because all of this is about parenting for paradise. So then we come to the next bit of the surah where it says, but give glad tidings to the patient ones. So here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving us the answer. He's giving us the answer to all of this is to be patient. Be patient in these tests. If we're patient through these tests, we will also be able to be patient with our children. We're able to be better parents for our children. So what does being patient mean? Being patient means we're trusting in Allah. We're trusting that whatever it is we're going through, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to take care of it. That after difficulty comes ease. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not burden us with more than we can bear. All the things that we are taught as part of our beautiful deen. We're accepting the qadr of Allah. So by being patient, we're accepting that this is the qadr of Allah. And we're not trying to control what is actually Allah's to control. When we feel out of control, when we're not accepting the qadr of Allah, we're not being patient, we're not trusting in Allah, we try to control everything. If you feel like you're trying to control everything, then it means that you've gone off track. Because when we are on track, when we are really truly trusting on Allah and having faith, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to bring that ease after the difficulty, all those sorts of things, and we stop trying to control everything around us. Because in actual fact, we have no control over it anyway. Only Allah has the control, not us. And so then when we can be in that patient state, we are better able to be a good parent. We don't take out our frustrations and stresses that we're having through the test that we're going through on our children. Because if we do, we're actually oppressing our children. It's not their fault what we're going through. So why are we putting our feelings on them, making them responsible for how we feel? Or if it is our child that is the test, we remember that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is sending that as a test to us. And so we are there for our child, and we're patient through that test so that we're better able to support our child in a good way and bring that child back on track, inshallah. So the next bit is when in the verse is, who when afflicted with calamity say, verily to Allah we belong, and verily to him we shall return. So firstly, this is teaching us what to say. I know we say this when someone dies. We say, Inna lillahi wa inna lillahi raji'un. But we also say this in any type of calamity. In any type of calamity, it is reminding us that everything is from Allah. Everything returns to Allah. And this also reminds us that first and foremost, our children are actually not ours. They are Allah's. Allah has given them to us as a blessing and also as a responsibility and as a test. SubhanAllah. They are Allah's just like we are. So just like we would take precious care of something that we are borrowing from our friend or from our neighbor or from a family member so that we can return it in the best state, we should have that same attitude, inshallah, for our children. That, they're on loan to us from Allah. And we should be treating them as something that is on loan so that we're returning it in the best form possible, inshallah. So if you were looking after someone else's children, for instance, would you yell and hit someone else's child? Would you treat someone else's child the way you treat your own child? Probably not. So then, why are we treating our own children like that? Why do we hit them? Why do we yell at them? Why do we freak out at them, lose it at them, bribe them, blackmail them, all the things that we do to try and control our children? They are Allah's, not ours. So we should be treating them like we would treat somebody else's child if we were caring for their child, inshallah. So then we go on to the next part of the verse. And the next part of the verse is telling us they are those on whom... Sorry, let me read it from my... I'm trying to read it back to front from the screen here. They are those who are blessed and forgiven by their Lord. So what we are learning from this is that if we can follow these instructions, keep patient, and follow, what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has guided us to, then this is a source of blessing and forgiveness for us. This is how it becomes part of a worship of Allah. So we have this opportunity every single day to get reward, blessing and forgiveness from Allah just in parenting our children in a good way by being patient with them. It's not just when we pray. It's not just when we fast and do what we call, the standard acts of worship. Parenting our children is also an act of worship if we're able to do it in a patient, peaceful manner. And so we have the opportunity 24/7 to get this blessing and forgiveness from Allah through looking after our children, through going through the tests of our children in a patient way, and just following through what we've gone through in this particular verse. And then on top of that, it says, and they are those who receive His mercy. Now, why is this so important? Why do we want Allah's mercy? The Prophet ﷺ actually said, no one will enter paradise by his deeds alone. And the companion says, not even you, O Prophet of Allah. And the Prophet ﷺ said, not even me, unless Allah covers me with His mercy. And this is a Bukhari and Muslim hadith. So in fact, if we want to enter paradise, we need Allah's mercy as well, not just our good deeds. And here we've learned in this surah, in this ayah, or these three ayah, an opportunity to earn Allah's mercy. Alhamdulillah. And then the final part, it says, and it is they who are the guided ones. So you know how we say in our prayer, every day we say, guide us to the straight path. Ihdina sirat al-mustaqim. Every day we're repeating that. So this is, our ultimate goal. This is what we're asking Allah for, is to guide us to the straight path. And this is one of the ways. So if we just go back over what this verse said again. It said, and certainly we shall test you with something of fear, hunger, loss of wealth, lives and fruits. But give glad tidings to the patient ones who, when afflicted with calamity, say, verily to Allah we belong, and verily to Him we shall return. They are those on whom are the blessings and will be forgiven from their Lord, and they are the ones who receive his mercy, and it is they who are the guided ones. So that's chapter 2, verses 155 to 157. So what we've gone through today is how that can be connected to parenting and parenting our children well, inshallah. So it's all about being patient. It's really important in our parenting to be patient. And a lot of the time our children cop it. Our children are the ones that cop the brunt of our stresses, of our moods, when we're struggling. When they make a mistake, you know, we often come down a lot heavier on them than really they deserve. They don't deserve it whether they've done something wrong or not. So firstly, you know, coming down hard on a child is not the way to correct them. Look at our example of the Prophet ﷺ, and if you haven't been through my free training that I've done, there's some great examples of how the Prophet ﷺ was with children. You can go there, and we can see how the Prophet ﷺ was with children. He was very gentle with them. He was very connecting with them. When something happened, he didn't yell and scream at them. He was very patient. So we should try and correct our children in the same way. Bribery, blackmail, yelling, hitting, depriving them of things, withdrawing our love for them are not the ways to correct children. Connection and correction is the way to go. So connect with them first and then correct them, inshallah. Also, you know, if we are being hard and harsh on our children because we're having a hard time ourselves, then this is unjust, because it's not their fault. It's not their fault that, you know, they might be in a particular state of mind that we feel like it's driving us crazy. And we're making them responsible for our well-being if we react in that way towards them. Our kids naturally want us to be happy, and they'll do whatever they can to make us happy. So we have to be very careful that we don't let our children think that the reason that we're having a hard time is because of them. We don't want them to go around feeling like it's their fault, when, you know, we might be stressed because we're struggling to pay the bills, or we've had some bad news, or we've lost a good friend or a family member, or something's going on with us. It's not their fault. So it's up to us to be patient through the trials and difficulties that we're going through and not take that out on our kids. Our feelings are our responsibility. It's up to us, you know, to look after the way we feel. And this is primarily what I teach in my parenting program, because 90% of the success of parenting comes from being in a peaceful place inside.